Joining us now is Michael Devine, and we're going to be talking about his journey as a police officer, but also as a major, I'm going to say triple threat, but I don't know. Mike, do you dance?
I don't.
You don't dance?
Terrible. Yeah,
I
please
don't
ask me to dance.
Don't ask me.
Never. No.
I won't dance. Don't ask me.
Please don't.
Okay. Well, when you were in grade school, what plays were you in? Did you like? When did the bug of theater bite you?
The big one was Judd in Oklahoma in 8th grade.
Really? Oklahoma.
So we thank Sister Renee.
Oh, Sister Renee, she
Phillips.
discovered you?
She did. Yeah.
She said, Michael, I got, did she have an Irish accent or no?
She looked like she would, but she didn't.
She didn't. Okay.
No.
So she says to you, I have a role you can't refuse.
Yep, it's going to be Judd in Oklahoma, and leading the way to Officer Krupke in West Side Story, who didn't have to dance, thankfully.
Wow. So in West Side Story, you played an officer. So you actually played an officer before you became an officer.
Foreshadowing there.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So you had other relatives that went into the police force. Let's talk about those fine people in your life.
My father was a drug enforcement agent. He was actually, I don't know, bring it down already, but he was shot and he died in line of duty.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Thank you. And my grandfather was a New York City police detective. So it was in my blood. And I tried very hard to go in a different direction, but my molecular chemistry kept bringing me back. They didn't push me. I shot them all when I followed in their footsteps.
You started doing this. Wow. How old were you when your father passed?
11.
I'm so sorry, Michael.
Thank you.
So here you were, a young man, right? And you lost your dad, and you were going to school, and you found the theater, and you were able to perform. Who were some of the people early on in your life, though, that said, you know what, you have some talent?
Growing up in New Jersey, I was very lucky that Broadway was just a quick bus ride away.
Yeah.
So I became obsessed with Les Miserables. I saw the original Broadway company back when Les Mis was new.
Wow.
It blew me away. And that was really what kind of made me want to follow in that direction. And I literally stood outside the stage door and said, do you teach voice? Do you teach voice? Do you teach? And somebody in the cast said, I teach voice. And he started working with me. And actually there was something there. And for him to tell me that there's something there, it was promising.
What's there is your bravery, right? It's brave of you to want to seek out advice, and it's brave of you to be a police officer. Those are both brave. Neither, being a police officer takes bravery, but being in our industry in showbiz takes a lot of bravery too. There's a lot of rejection. It's not that easy. So you move forward, and you were a young person, and you're in plays. And then what were some of your big breaks going forward from that?
I actually was, as much as I was studying acting, I fell into management.
Okay.
And a friend of mine got me a job working for the company that produced Les Miserables. So I was here in my early 20s, and I got this big break, actually just answering phones. And then after a couple of years, I got into management, and they sent me on tour with Miss Saigon.
Oh my gosh.
Which was incredible, the original Cameron Mackintosh production of Miss Saigon. But it was almost too much too soon, because I was making great money too. And in my 20s, it was crazy. But I felt there was a higher calling. I felt there was something more I needed to do. And I was about 26, and I said, I need to do this. As much as I was fighting it, I need to do this, and let me give it till I'm 30. So I left the tour of Miss Saigon in Des Moines and went back to New York without the promise of a job, but I ended up getting hired by the NYPD, and I was sworn into the NYPD in 1998. My
goodness.
Crazy.
Okay. So, I just find you fascinating. I just keep smiling and tripping all over my words, and I do this for a living, but there's so much there. There's so much in you to unpack, right? In a good way. For instance, so you're a singer, and 9/11 happens, right? And so that now has affected your esophagus.
Yeah, I was lucky that I was on the job during 9/11. I was so grateful to participate so fully. And also, it was an opportunity to take my singing, because I actually became one of the national anthem soloists for the department in their ceremonial unit. The guy who was doing it, Daniel Rodriguez,
yes,
very popular.
He got very popular.
So he left an empty slot.
He's signing autographs, right?
He was doing great. When he was singing on the Oscars, I said there might be an opening.
There might be.
So I actually took over for him. So I was singing for the department, mostly the national anthem, God Bless America, vigils, funerals. interesting, ways to perform. And then a few years after that, I noticed something was wrong with my voice,
Okay.
and my nose. And I look, and I don't want to get too gross, but like the flesh in my nose was deteriorating. And I was told it was from inhaling the toxic dust at Ground Zero. I was at Ground Zero for about a year,
Okay.
On and off, and working different in the bereavement center and the morgue. And I actually felt very lucky, because this is all I'm dealing with when those around me are getting catastrophic diagnoses. And there are many, many deaths, including a very good friend of mine recently. So if I'm thinking, okay, this is not the worst, but as a singer, this could be a challenge. So I stopped singing for the department, but I really felt I needed to do something. I needed to focus this somewhere.
Okay. And you created something.
I did.
Okay. What did you create?
Well, I actually, around that time, a lot of the songs I sang for the department, I put onto an album in 2011 called Songs of Valor and Hope. On the police wall in D.C., it's written, "In valor there is hope." So it's actually a fairly melancholy album. But much to my surprise, I guess there are a lot of people out there who like the type of music that I like. And it did very well. It did surprisingly well. It hit #1 on Amazon in several categories. So I was surprised that something I kind of did for myself, for part of my own therapy,
People
found an
resonated
audience.
with it. Yes.
Yeah, but then I thought, this was 2011. I wanted to do it again, but I was again having some issues with my voice.
Okay. And what are you doing now? What's happening this August?
Well, I spent 10 years.
Okay.
I didn't know at the time that the second album was going to be a labor of love that took 10 years, mainly because of my voice. And also, if this was going to be my swan song, if I was going to lose my voice ultimately, I wanted it to be good.
Okay.
I wanted it to be epic. So I wanted a big orchestra, but I don't really have access to an orchestra. I didn't really have one on hand. So I hired musicians individually, and they remotely recorded their instruments. And I mixed it together, and I put together over the course of a couple of years, piece by piece, year by year, I created a full orchestra on some of the tracks. And with the struggles of my voice, there were some good days and some bad days. So that's kind of why it took a while.
Okay. Sentinels. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And how will people be able to purchase it and engage with it?
It comes out August 18th.
Okay.
And it's available on all major music streaming platforms. You can pre-order now on iTunes, and it'll hopefully will be everywhere on the 18th.
And because at this moment, when we're having this little news program together, SAG is on strike. But you have been a working SAG actor, and I have been as well. And therefore, if somebody wanted to find out about your acting things, they could just go and look at your IMDb.
Exactly.
So you've done a little bit of greatness in many different categories, right? So I like you. I think you're fun, and I think you're jovial, and you're kind, and you're warm-hearted. What do you attribute to that great attitude?
Well, thank you. It actually, I always thought, especially in the police department, there was really 2 simple rules. Just do a good job and be a good person. And I feel like the world, that would just hand you everything. And it's the same for any profession. And I find it, whether it's my acting, my singing, or even my work with the police department, those 2 simple rules. And I guess I kind of followed them myself.
There you go. It was lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Really just a pleasure and an honor. And I celebrate you. I think that, like I said, you're very, very talented. And when I researched you and I said, oh, you did that? And I was like, oh yeah, he was the guy that did that. Oh, he got to do this. So there's a lot here. So thank you though for spending some time with us. And thank you for explaining to us about your journey too. And we wish you nothing but the best of health.
Thank you so much.
Because so many people are struggling with that. And as I told you, I was in this building during that day. This used to be the WLNY TV newsroom. So thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I really, really, really appreciate you.
That means a lot.
Be well. Stay tuned for more. Please Google him, follow him, like him. He's got all those socials. And we would love to hear from you too. If you have somebody special in your life or somebody that you know that might be struggling with something, please send us an email because we will keep them in our thoughts. Be well.